What is sin in Islam, and can it really be forgiven? This question touches one of the most psychologically significant aspects of any religious system. Here is the complete, honest picture of how Islam understands wrongdoing and the path back from it. Sin is not inherited. As covered in earlier content on Adam and Eve, Islam rejects the concept of original sin entirely. Every human being is born in a state of fitrah, natural purity and innate orientation toward God. Sin in Islamic theology is something a person does, not something they inherit or are born carrying. This is a foundational difference from some other religious traditions, and it shapes everything else about how Islam approaches wrongdoing and redemption. The categories of sin. Islamic theology distinguishes between major sins, kaba'ir, and minor sins, saga'ir. Major sins include things explicitly and severely condemned in the Quran and Hadith: shirk, murder, adultery, abandoning prayer, consuming interest, false testimony, and others. Minor sins are everyday lapses, a moment of dishonesty, an unkind word, a missed opportunity for good. The distinction matters practically. The five daily prayers, fasting, and other regular acts of worship are described in Hadith as expiating minor sins automatically, as part of the normal rhythm of religious life. Major sins require deliberate, sincere repentance. The mechanics of repentance. Tawbah. Tawbah, repentance, has a specific structure in Islamic theology. It requires recognizing the wrongdoing, feeling genuine remorse, stopping the behavior, and making a sincere commitment not to return to it. If the sin involved wronging another person, restitution or seeking their forgiveness is also required where possible. There is no priest, no confessional, no required intermediary. A person goes directly to God. The scope of God's forgiveness. This is where Islamic theology becomes genuinely striking. The Quran describes God's mercy as encompassing everything. A hadith states that if a person's sins filled the space between earth and sky, and they sought God's forgiveness, God would forgive them. Another describes God as more pleased with a believer's repentance than a man who found his lost camel in the desert after giving up hope. The Quran explicitly states that God forgives all sins, addressing those who may have despaired of his mercy directly, instructing them never to lose hope. The one exception. As covered in earlier content, the single sin the Quran describes as unforgiven if held until death is shirk, dying in a state of associating partners with God without ever repenting. Every other sin, regardless of magnitude, is described as forgivable through sincere repentance, making the door back to God in Islamic theology almost impossibly wide open. The depth of Islamic theology across 14 centuries continues to reward honest and careful study. Every honest account of this faith adds one more piece to a picture that grows richer the more closely one looks. Context and nuance separate real understanding from oversimplified summaries that miss what actually matters. These are exactly the kinds of details that make an enormous difference to genuine understanding of the faith. This channel exists to provide honest, respectful, context rich education about Islam for the genuinely curious, like if this gave you something. Subscribe, truth every day. I'm Noor. This is Islam with Noor. Thank you for listening.